Hello everybody and welcome to another watercolor tutorial. We are going to be painting this beautiful lightning sky scene today. So you can grab your materials and we can get started. The first thing that I'm just doing here is taking one of my round brushes. I'm using a size 14 Grumbacher, linked in the description as always. And I'm just going to be covering my entire piece of paper with a layer of this blue. And we're just going to try and later on take off some of the blue towards the top here, just because that's where our lightning strike is going to be coming from. And I've also taped the borders of my piece of paper with some Scotch tape. You can do that if you'd like, but it's not like a necessary requirement. It's just when I work with backgrounds or paintings where I have to cover the entire background, I do like to tape the borders just to make it look a little bit more neat. And in previous videos people have asked me what kind of tape I use, and as I said, just Scotch tape. It works really well. And if by the way though, a little disclaimer, if you have more inexpensive paper, and I don't even like this, the paper I'm using here is actually pretty inexpensive by Strathmore. I'm talking about the really cheap stuff that might rip when you're peeling the tape off, so just keep that in mind. And I'm not painting on cotton paper here, so my sky isn't this beautiful fluid gradient. And I also am not doing the wet on wet technique because I do want my sky to be really intense. And I guess the more water that you put on, the less intense that it is. Okay, so in this second layer, I'm going to be adding some black to I guess the background landscape. So I'm just applying another layer because we want to make this as dark as possible. I've decided that I am going to make the bottom a little bit lighter as well as the top. I think I mentioned that earlier. And this is because we're going to be painting silhouettes on the bottom. I haven't yet decided whether we're going to paint trees or mountains or both. So do keep this area a little bit lighter than everything else. So I'm just adding some black as well. You can sort of dot to the areas as well, and if you have cotton paper, then this would blend very seamlessly. I'm not using cotton paper though. Mostly because I have a lot of non-cotton paper that I do want to get through. I really don't like wasting things, so I'm trying to keep a balance between using cotton paper and my old paper. Okay, so now we just want to be mindful that we're leaving sort of a lighter area at the top here, sort of in like an ovular shape, but we want it to be a lot less harsh than this situation is. So you can sort of blend it like this, dot it with your paintbrush. And this is because our lightning bolt is going to be coming from here, so we want, I guess, the source of the lightning to be super bright, and it's just going to be coming down like this. Okay, now that this has dried, I can see there's quite a bit of cauliflowering going on. Way too much, more than I'm comfortable with. So what I'm gonna do is just paint on another layer completely evenly. It doesn't have to be very dark because we already applied all of our layers. We just want to get rid of that cauliflowering. So if we just apply a tinted blue wash over this entire thing, that will get rid of or even just mask that cauliflowering effect. So that's just what I'm doing right now. And we want to do this quickly because we don't want sections to dry and then create the same problem yet again. Again, if you have cotton paper, you probably don't have to worry about this at all. So now we have to kind of redo our little spot here because I've covered it. And this time I'm going to dab on or dab off some color in other areas too to make it look like there are clouds. I'm also going to add some darker features, so darker clouds in some areas. Now I'm just going to keep adding dark clouds, just in certain sections now that it's completely dry, the background. So I'm just using the tip of my round brush, creating cloudy shapes. It's really easy to create clouds because they're very uneven, and I mean clouds can be any shape, so whatever you do, it's kind of hard to mess up. Just gonna add a couple clouds a little bit lower as well. As you get lower and lower, you can make your clouds much thinner. So at some points even just thin lines work as clouds. But you want to make sure they're a bit lighter than the ones up top here. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So now we're going to create silhouettes at the bottom here, and I still haven't decided what kind of silhouettes that I want to paint. Obviously we're going to be using black watercolor for this part. Let's see here. Yes, I know that this is not completely dry, these clouds, but that is how impatient I am. So I'm kind of just going over the clouds at this point. So, I don't know. This is a combination of mountains and trees. Maybe I'll paint some pines up here, just add a little bit of extra detail. Some undetailed pine trees for extra detail. If you do, if you're not too confident with painting pine trees, I do have a lot of different tutorials in which I paint pine trees, including one that goes over 4 techniques to paint pine trees, so 4 different ways, I suppose. So you can definitely check that out. There are so many ways of achieving the pine tree look, even more than the 4 that I mentioned in that video. But that's a great place to get started if you're not comfortable at all with painting them. Like here I just achieve these using a size 14 round brush, so it's not too difficult once you know what techniques to use and you get the hang of it. And they don't need to be super detailed either. As long as it has a kind of pointy top, people get the picture that it's supposed to be a pine tree. Oh, I kind of like that actually. So I'm taking a much less watered down black and I'm just kind of extending my pine tree line to go over the mountain, or sorry, in front of the mountain there. So it looks like it's continuing on, and I'm just going to wisp my paintbrush up like this to make it look like there are pine trees in the background growing there. I really like how that turned out. That's really nice, if I do say so myself. Okay, so now we're going to be painting the lightning bolt, and what I encourage you to do is maybe pencil out your lightning strike before you paint it so that you have a rough guide of where it's going to be going. So obviously it's going to come from the brightest part, like this little oval up top here, and it's going to be thickest up here too. And you can have just one going down, or you could have it branching out. I'm going to have mine branching out quite a bit, or at least I say that now. How it actually turns out, we will find out. And the way that you want to draw these lines is pretend that you just drank 20 cups of coffee or like 20 energy drinks or something, and you just, like, your fingers can't stay still, and so you're kind of like drawing the line like this, and that's sort of what you want your lightning bolt to look like. We are also going to be using acrylic paint for the lightning bolt. You're welcome to try using paint from a tube, like watercolor paint from a tube, because then it's much more opaque and actually easier to achieve that opaque, bright look. And the other technique that we're going to be using here, and I'm just going to say this right off the bat, we want our lightning strike to stick out quite a bit. Because, you know, it's not just a bright line, it's the brightness illuminates off of our lightning strike. So we want to create that illumination, and we could have achieved that earlier by kind of doing something similar to what we did here, which was dragging and lifting off the color off of the piece of paper. But instead, what I'm going to do is just create sort of this glow out of super washed out white acrylic paint. So I'm just adding, try to drag this over here, maybe go outwards so you could see better what I'm doing. I have a little bit of water right here. I'm just taking a little bit of acrylic paint, and I'm creating this very, 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 very washed out white wash. And I'm going to be using this to create that bright glow, and I'm just painting it. See, that's not enough. You're gonna have to experiment a little bit until you have the right opacity. Like, you want it light enough that it's not super visible, but obviously not opaque enough that it looks like a lightning bolt on its own. So you're just following your pencil marks and just blotching a line over the pencil marks. And now I'm just going to take the acrylic paint and start painting on my lightning bolt. I do want it to fade into that cloud. And the top of our lightning bolt is going to be a lot more, the line is going to be much more thick. And as you move down your lightning bolt, you want to make your lines thinner and thinner. So the ends of your lightning bolt, you almost want them to be hair thin. So it might take a little bit of practice getting the pressure that you're applying to the paintbrush to be just right so that it actually shows up on the piece of paper and is really nice and thin. Okay, you can keep adding lines to your lightning bolt, little hair lines coming off of all the strikes. It's totally up to you how many you do. I'm okay with that. I might add some more later, but that's basically it. We can peel the tape off if you applied that at the beginning. Having some trouble here. And there we go. That is our lightning painting. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.